Good morning, everybody. I don't know if you all can hear me. I haven't used Crowdcast in I don't know, 5 years. But hopefully you guys can all hear me. The purpose of using Crowdcast this morning is to hopefully involve you guys in some of the discussions. This is more of an interactive platform where you guys can talk and share your voices, and we can share wins and losses and all kinds of struggles with artificial intelligence. So if you guys can't hear me, throw it in the chat on the right-hand side. If you can't hear each other, I don't know how to bring you all on stage yet, but we will figure that out as this session goes on. So welcome to the first edition of CampVantage Live. The intention of these is to do a weekly session on artificial intelligence every week for the industry. Obviously, we'll miss a couple over Christmas and come back in 2026. But the idea here is to have kind of a structured format where I'm going to talk for maybe 5-10 minutes each week, depending on how much news there is, to talk to you a little bit about what's new in the industry, what you should be paying attention to, a little bit about how it impacts campground owners, operators, suppliers, vendors, all that kind of stuff. And then the meat of this is really going to be you guys talking back and forth and sharing your wins and what you've done with AI and sharing your knowledge with each other versus me just talking. We'll figure out if we can make the platform actually do that, but hopefully. So let me just begin here and start. There's a couple polls on the left that you guys can fill out if you're interested. Just a couple things that Gemini said would be good polls to ask you guys. So here we go. AI news and roundup for the week of November 17th through the 24th. I did take some liberties with this stuff since it's our first call. So I did go back for the last 2 weeks to cover some individual things. So let's go down through here if I can get my slideshow to work. All right. So for those of you who are familiar with other models outside of ChatGPT, many of you, if you've just used ChatGPT, you have that word be synonymous with AI. There are several other companies in this space, one of which is Anthropic, who has their Claude chatbot. You may have seen advertisements in airports or stuff like that about Claude. But they are very much competing on the same level as ChatGPT with some of the same features. So they have just announced, I think literally yesterday, their Claude Opus 4.5. You can think of this the same way as ChatGPT went from 3.5 to 4 to 4.0 to 5 to 5.1. Just more iterations of the model getting smarter in different areas. For Anthropic and Claude, they focus more on coding. So they're more on privacy. How can I keep your data secure? How can I use it for government initiatives or corporate purposes that keep the data siloed and secure? But they are, much the same as ChatGPT. If you are an owner trying to figure out what one you should use, for many of you who are using this for business purposes like social media, Google Ads, stuff like that, to generate images or website copy or research things from legal to accounting to anything else like that, you're not really going to notice a difference. The biggest difference, which I'll show you briefly if we get to it later in a demo at the end of the call, is the switching between models inside of whatever your chosen platform is. But so you can see here, Opus 4.5 is Anthropic's newest flagship model. It was designed specifically to power AI agents. We'll probably won't have enough time to talk about this comprehensively on this call, but maybe the discussion back and forth can kind of lead there. But AI agents are what's coming now and what will happen in 2026. And the difference between that and a chatbot is a chatbot can talk to you back and forth. An agent can actually perform tasks. So they can read your email, they can respond to your email, they can look at video, they can edit video and edit images, they can access a CRM like HubSpot, eventually platforms like CampSpot or NewBook if they decide to integrate with them. So they can actually perform tasks like a human worker would. So for outdoor hospitality, this means agents can now handle long-running tasks without constant supervision, reading guest reviews. So an example of this would be you can set up and like this is not easy right now, but it will get easier over time. You can set up an automation to have it look at all your guest reviews and pull out what are the positive things people are saying over the last 5 years. What are the negative things? What should I fix? What's the overall sentiment of positive or happiness or negative or sadness or whatever you want to look at? And then you can see like some of these are hypothetical at the end, but logging into your PMS to flag maintenance issues, drafting email responses, and updating spreadsheets in one seamless workflow. So that's Anthropic Claude Opus 4.5. and it gives you some other examples of some integrations they've done. They have an integration with Microsoft Excel. You're going to see a lot of tools come out where you can control the browser. We probably won't get to those today, but Google Chrome, where ChatGPT has its own browser now that you can download if you're on Apple. It's basically a Google Chrome replacement. And you're going to see a lot of extensions come to the market for Google Chrome. You're going to see Google start to put this in where you can just type in the sidebar, go do this for me, go plan a camping trip, go research, and it will go out and open all the tabs and browse all the websites and pull all the data back. And you won't have to do any of this work. And you can let it run in the background. Is it perfect yet? Not even close. But it's the worst it will ever be. And it's going to get better very, very fast. Google released Gemini 3.0. This is one of the most talked about news stories, and we'll look at a little bit more. I have a couple videos on this for you. I want to play for you. They're short, but Google released Gemini 3.0 Pro. This, I think it was last week. No, it probably says right in front of me. I should just read my own slide. November 18th, 2025. This has been very widely talked about in the industry. There are a lot of things that we pay attention to for AI geeks that are called benchmarks that basically test how good of a model is compared to another model, an AI like a ChatGPT is compared to Gemini, on math, on science, on image, on running a business, on video, on understanding, on scientific, on reasoning. Google just basically destroyed ChatGPT on every single one of those benchmarks, save I think coding, maybe. And it was very, very close. So whatever Google's been putting their heads down and doing, they really leapt ahead of ChatGPT. Now, for a business owner who's doing the things that we talked about for you, you probably aren't going to notice a lot of this stuff. But as you get better with AI, hopefully through these classes and through practicing and learning more about it, you're going to start to notice some of these nuances as we go forward. It does integrate. The power with Google is that it integrates with everything. So you've already probably started to see this some places, depending on whether you subscribe to Google's workplace offering or things like that. You've started to see that Google integrates with Gmail. It integrates with Google Docs. It integrates with Google Drive, all those places. And if you have your data as a business in those, and Microsoft has a similar offering, but if you have your data in those, all of a sudden you can query it to analyze spreadsheets and profits and loss statements and all kinds of things like that. You should always double check that work, but we're going to get to the point where then agents can create spreadsheets, and we're already really there, but it's going to get better. Create spreadsheets, create reports, analyze data, email stuff. The agents are just going to do a lot of this busy work for you that you've had to do traditionally for really the entire existence of businesses. And it's going to allow you as an owner to focus more on what you really want to do versus what you need to do. And then again, another model release. They all are on fire this week. Elon Musk's company, XAI, released Grok 4.1, which was at the top of the benchmark leaderboards for 36 hours until Gemini 3.0 was released. So this stuff, as you can see, the one thing you'll see consistently as we have these calls is the speed at which this stuff is moving. You've never seen anything like it before. If you go back to the launch of the personal computer in the 80s, probably, you had time. You could either be the person who said, I'm going to go all in on computers and I'm going to buy the first personal computer that can be in my house and I'm going to do everything with it. And those were the people who built the companies like Google and Amazon and lots of ones that failed too. But those were the people that were the early adopters. And then there were the mid-tier people who said, I will adopt I'll adopt PCs, although it applies to AI too. I will adopt PCs if my business forces me to do so, or if I have a really good reason to do it. But otherwise, I kind of don't really care about it. And then the third type of person is the one who said, no, I don't want anything to do with that. If you decided that in the PC era or the smartphone era with BlackBerry and apps, you had time to recover. You had time to say, oh, it's 10 years later. I guess I was kind of wrong about PCs. Maybe I'll go learn one now or buy one for my house or figure out how to use spreadsheets or Word or Excel or whatever else. That time is, I can't even explain to you how exponentially fast AI is moving. And hopefully you'll start to understand it during some of these calls. But you really should pay as close of attention as you possibly can. And then there's a couple other things we'll touch on real quick. It's already 10 minutes. That went really fast. So Sendin, who I'm not actually familiar with deeply, they're in the hotel space more. But I brought this in here as an example. They've partnered with Direct Booker to connect their hotel rates and availability directly into AI search platforms using something called MCP, which we won't go into. But this is a harbinger of things to come. You're going to have the availability for eventually, depending on how fast platforms like CampSpot and NewBook operate and run, to see your rates and to have campsites and glamping, properties or yurts and cabins and all that stuff be able to be booked through ChatGPT to the point where they won't even need to go to your website in a couple years at all to do anything. That'll be either through ChatGPT or through your Alexa device or something like that. CampSpot, as I'm sure you guys saw, if you follow Woodall's or Modern Campground, launched AI occupancy forecasting. I haven't had a lot of time to delve into this. Maybe Mike Harrison's on this call. He can give us a little bit of a deep dive later if we can figure out how to get everybody on and talking on this call. But they launched that. So, a new feature that just allows you to predict future occupancy levels, rate suggestions, pricing, things like that. So CampSpot's been a really good, partner for us, but also a partner, for the industry, leading with some of the AI stuff. Someone raised their hand. Let's see if I can actually do this since we're 10 minutes. Is that Mike Harrison? No, that's Akari, you raised your hand? We'll wait for you a sec, Akari. Let me finish the news. Okay, so we have AI occupancy forecasting. We have Meta Business Suite, which launched an AI overview. So you can see, we'll include some of the links as you guys are talking later. But Meta's goal is to launch an advertising suite within their platform to eventually allow business owners like you to create their own advertising. And we'll look at an example here at the last 10 minutes of the call. I'll show you Google Pomeli, which is really interesting from a branding perspective as a small business owner, what you can do with some of that. Oh, there's Mike Harrison. All right, Mike, I'm going to invite you in 1 second. We'll talk about that. Let me finish up this news real quick. And then just quickly, Microsoft Copilot announced expansions into, this is similar to Google, where you can drop Microsoft Copilot in and it can analyze some of your business data, generate quotes, receive inquiries, all that kind of stuff. You see this word agents everywhere. It's going to start to operate this software for you. OpenAI and Target have a partnership where they're going to integrate ChatGPT directly into Target's shopping experience. Customers can use a custom Target app inside ChatGPT to browse products, build multi-item baskets, and schedule delivery or pickup. You're going to start to see the real world integrated more with ChatGPT. And then the last one I think I have is just a security alert to pay attention to some of your security at your campground. You're going to start to see more of this happening. We've seen some of it in our industry already. We won't name names, right? And it's not any of these companies' faults. But this stuff is really important to pay attention to from a personal perspective to guard your business data. Anthropic, is flagging and released a press release about a Chinese state-sponsored group that used their AI system, or tried to use their AI system to automate cyber attacks against 30 global targets, including governments and tech firms, completely autonomously. So we just have to pay more attention to your security in the future too. But all right, we are a couple minutes over, so I'm going to move to take down my screen share, and we will hopefully figure out how to collaborate with you guys. I'm going to allow Mike here to come in, and we'll put him on the main stage and see if we can see you. There you go, Mike. Can we see you? Can you hear us?
You can also see my crappy office behind me here.
Well, it's better than my office. Look at all the wires
I can't
and
do a
planes.
virtual background on this crowdcast thing. Oh, well, maybe AI can help me.
So tell us, did you raise your hand to talk about CampSpots?
Oh, you had asked, and then Akari had said raise your hand if you want to access. So I was just, hi.
Hey, Mike. Please, yeah. I mean, share what you know. You know more than I do because I've been traveling at conferences for 4 weeks.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of CampSpot, but they rolled out their new occupancy predictive tools this month. Had been touting them for a while, and really, it's using some of the predictive technology that you've been talking about. I'm sorry, AI technology to basically it'll take a look at your history, what you have in the books, the pace, and it will make recommendations based on what your patterns have been. To say what your forecast might be. And then it'll allow you to, give you some suggestions. It'll allow you to make rate changes based on the suggestions. Obviously, it's not perfect yet because, if your history last year maybe had a weather event, they haven't built in weather yet. So maybe you got rained out on a particular weekend and, et cetera, et cetera. But it's certainly a first step. And then the revenue management tool that they're rolling out in Q1 is the big brother version of it, the entire integrated program which will also include minimum length stays and some other analytics, dynamic pricing, revenue management, etc. So pretty exciting rollout.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they take that and how fast they move. But that's definitely a big need in the industry is to figure out revenue management, ADR, how to use that stuff to forecast.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, who else do we have on the call? Does anybody want to be brave like Mike and be the first person to talk? Like the whole idea here is to not have me talk; it's to have you guys share your wins, what you've done with AI, peer-to-peer learning. So if you would like to share, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I guess me and Mike can just talk to each other during the whole call if we need to.
It'll be like every week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I expect this call to take a lot of time and a momentum to build. Also, this is Thanksgiving week, so probably a little bit lower of attendance. But we're
Look,
looking for.
you got some important people on here like Scott and Randy. Rachel's on here. You got some big hitters.
We'll see. Like, if they want to talk. And all right, so we're looking for like conversations about what you've done with AI recently. How have you played with ChatGPT? What's something you've done for your business? What's something that you're struggling with that you have questions about that maybe we can help with? Anything really to get us going. Or you can just hear from me and I'll keep talking, which I feel like nobody really wants. But
No, I'm interested to hear. We just had a meeting last week about some revenue initiatives that we're rolling out. Some enhancements that we're doing for the company. Some we'll be able to do in CampSpot. Some are completely outside of it. And as we're talking about the team, there are many of these processes that it's going to take time, going property by property to do X, property by property to do X. And we spoke about, what you and I had spoken about, initiatives or agents to basically run some of these scripts for us. So, I'd like to hear a little bit more kind of about what you have planned and how fast we could get like our first one done. Let's say we wanted to build one.
I mean, let me touch on, I don't want to go too much into what we offer, right? Because I don't want this to be a sales call.
Yep.
But I think what you should pay attention to as a business owner is the ability of these platforms to begin automating your work. And it doesn't mean replacing jobs completely. It means taking away some of the tedious things that you sit down in front of a computer and mouse and do every single day, right? How do you take that and remove the monotony of it? And so right now, like there were several sessions at Ojai that were really great, that talked about some of these things that are coming. But a lot of it is way over most people's heads. If I wasn't a complete geek and looking at this stuff 17, 18 hours a day, then it would be way over my head too. But I think the important part to understand is that this is not going to require you to really learn a completely new platform. Right now it does. But it's going to get to the point where you'll be able to, for instance, go into a platform like Zapier, which is an if this, do that platform. It's almost like a trigger. Something happens and then it does something as a result. You can go into platforms like that already and type in a box and say, build me an automation that reads my emails that come in and automatically drafts a reply to them based on whatever criteria. And it will build you an example of that. Now, you still have to tweak that a little bit, but it'll get you 80 to 90% of the way there. And so I think the important thing, as you guys hear all of this talk about agents and all of this talk about automations and all of this talk about all these geeky technical words like MCP servers and stuff like that, is to remember that for all of existence since the computer has existed, you've had to learn how to use a new piece of software. You had to sit down in front of a computer and learn Microsoft Windows or Apple's operating system, depending on what you chose. And if you wanted to switch, you had to learn something completely new. If you wanted to learn how to write a document on a computer, you had to learn Microsoft Word. If you wanted to do a spreadsheet, you had to learn Excel. If you wanted to do, and so on and so on and so forth, right? We're quickly going to get into an era where you'll be able to, and you already can do this with humans, right? But you'll be able to hire an AI agent that's an expert in Microsoft Excel, that's an expert in HubSpot, that's an expert in social media marketing. And you'll be able to rent them basically by an hourly wage, or I don't know what the price model will look like, but they'll be here from companies like OpenAI and from Claude and from Google. They already are available in some cases from other companies. And you'll be able to just check a box and connect HubSpot to them, and they will just go to work. And you'll be able to talk to them through voice or through a chat command and say, go find this, build me a report on this, give me this P&L data that I'm missing. Give me an idea of what I'm missing in my business to improve my occupancy in 2026. And it will just go out and do it. It won't be a chatbot. It'll be something that actually executes commands and builds reports inside of this software and can do everything that a human being can do as a CRM expert in HubSpot, for example. So just keeping your mind open to those possibilities that it doesn't seem, it is overwhelming right now, the speed at which this stuff is moving. But it is going to get much easier for you guys to digest and understand. I really would love to have some participation from the audience. Mike was the only brave one. Like, I can talk the whole time if you guys really want me to. I have some interesting videos and content that I can share. But if anybody wants to raise their hand, please do so, and we'll pop you in here. We would love to hear from you, some of your experiences and struggles with AI. But for now, until I see you guys decide to participate and raise your hand, I'm just going to keep talking. Let's go.
There's
Go
an
ahead.
interesting question in the chat about APIs.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Okay. You're right. Okay, I'm not used to using this one. Charles, okay, so I'll do Charles Wycliffe first. Is Copilot Microsoft's version of this? Yes. So Microsoft has taken basically ChatGPT, and they have a partnership with Anthropic Claude too. We don't really know what powers Copilot for sure, other than some form of ChatGPT. But yes, Copilot is the same version of that can plug into Excel and Microsoft Word and all those places and analyze your business data. So that's that. Yes. And they will continue to get better. So you use Copilot if you're on Microsoft. You use Gemini if you're on Google Docs and in Google's ecosystem. All right, let's see. Scott says, I've been using AI to bring together some disparate planning initiatives I've been working on and having it create a more coherent summary of these, including how to organize a rollout plan. This is one of the most powerful things, is the better you can get at the input for AI, the better you can get an output back. So many people that I talked to have tried ChatGPT once and said it was a terrible answer. And the analogy I always give them from a campground owner perspective is if you have a worker at your campground who you hired to clean your campground and you tell them, go clean my campground. Well, they could clean the bathhouse, they could sweep the patio sites, they could clean up the miniature golf course, they could vacuum the pool. And maybe that's not what you wanted. But you told them to clean the campground, so you're getting what you asked for. It's not wrong, it's just incomplete. Whereas if you hire that employee and you say, go clean the bathroom this way with this materials and these chemicals and whatever else, then you've given the employee more context and more information about what you want and how you want it to do it. And the output you're going to get is better. You're going to get a clean bathroom. It's the same way that you want to talk to AI. So as to Scott's point, the more that you can realize that you can talk to AI just like a human being or just like an employee, giving it the information that it needs to complete its work, attaching files like export reports from CampSpot or NewBook or KOA or things like that. Attach them as files and say, if you don't know the question to ask, say, what questions should I be asking about this data? And it will give you ideas of questions you should ask. And then ask those questions and say, like, what are some things that I can improve for 2026 as a blanket statement? What is something interesting that you think I should notice about this data? So you don't have to always know the exact question. You can ask AI to give you the question. But the more you can utilize that stuff, the better you'll be in the future. With agents in particular, Charles says, as the tasks get more complex and involve the PMS, will prior API agreements need to be altered to give access to these agents? That's probably it's a CampSpot NewBook question as far as the agreements go. I would imagine yes, because there's probably inherently some kind of a security risk to doing all this stuff. If it has access to your finances and full access to CampSpot where it could refund payments and things like that, for sure there's going to have to be some kind of legal agreement or arrangement in that place. Imagine when the robots come to your campground and they could trip and fall on a small child, right? Like there's going to have to be almost in separate insurance policies for humans versus robots. So the world's going to get interesting. But I think it's interesting to talk briefly, and I know you didn't ask this question, but I think it's interestingly to talk about like the integrations with PMS systems. So right now, and it's clunky, right now there are operator or AIs out there. Like one I use frequently is called Manus. It's a Chinese AI. But ChatGPT does the same thing and Gemini does the same thing. It's just a little bit more clunky. that will open up your browser and use, like, log into websites and use those tools. So you're going to see that even without an API, that, like, if CampSpot doesn't have one that allows the agents to do this, or Newbook or RMS or all those places don't have an API that allows the agents to perform these actions, you're going to see that you can say, here's the login and password to my CampSpot account. Here's the URL you go to log in. Here's some documentation about how to use CampSpot from their knowledge base or help space. And I'm just picking CampSpot, but the same thing applies to anything else, right? Go log into my account and figure out how to generate a report and do this. It's slower than a human being is right now. But if you can do that in the background and multitask on something else and come back 2 hours later and your report's done when you need it, that helps you be more efficient. So it's going to be an interesting future here. How does Grok 4.1 handle multi-language or multilingual data? Would it be better or more accurate compared to other models or platforms? I don't know the answer to that question, honestly. My hunch is that it's probably trained primarily, as many of these models are, in English data for now. I think that you're going to see some of the more popular languages like French and Spanish and things like that be able to be understood more by some of these models. But it all depends on the training data that's fed into it. What are they ingesting when they train these models? And if any of you are interested in how this training actually works, many of you know who Jon Stewart is. He hosted The Daily Show on Comedy Central for, like 20 years, right? He has a great show on YouTube called The Weekly Show now, which is a podcast. And he interviewed the godfather of AI. His name is Geoffrey Hinton. And they call him the godfather because he could do this. He could build the AI systems. He knew how to do it back in 1986, but he didn't have the internet with all the data to feed the AI all the knowledge or the training data like we talked about in English or French or anything else. And he didn't have the chips, but he knew how to do it. And so he's the guest on Jon Stewart's episode. You can look up Jon Stewart and Geoffrey Hinton on YouTube. It's like a 2-hour-long episode. But it's really fascinating to understand how AI actually works, because it works exactly like your brain does. They started off with blank neurons, and then they feed it data on, like, here's a picture of it. This is a really crude example. It's not how it works. But here's a picture of a cat. Here's a picture that's not a cat. And when you're a blank, like, almost think of it like a baby that knows nothing, right? You have a 50% chance of guessing the right one with a cat. And they do that thousands of times, and slowly it becomes a 50.1% chance to guess right and a 49.9% chance to guess wrong. And they keep going and keep going. And as they do this, the neurons, the same way they do in your brain and you're a baby when you learn, strengthen and weaken connections between each other to make connections between words and pictures and videos and associations. And so an AI is literally like a foundational element of the human brain. And we don't know, I don't know what the percentage is. We don't know, like, what 80, 90% of our human brain is capable of. So that's either scary or interesting to you, depending on how you view AI and the human brain. But it really is built the same way. And so we don't know how it forms those connections between languages, but it all is based on that training data. What are you training it on? Pictures, images. They're already starting to train models on smell, which is really interesting. And I'm not sure how that's going to work over the internet, but it's coming. So it's really interesting to see how this stuff kind of progresses. But multilingual, I think, is, like, that's one of the biggest. I mean, I attended the conferences in Croatia 4 weeks ago where they were mostly speaking Croatian. And I went to France and they were speaking all French. And I don't understand half this stuff. But I had either my Pixel earbuds in, or I had a translator earbud that I bought from Amazon. And I was able to understand the gist of some of the presentations and what they were talking about. So this stuff is going to help you kind of close the gap between understanding between all kinds of different people around the world too. What else we got? Anybody else have any questions now that I know that the chat is there? Thanks, Mike. Okay, we'll pay attention to that. If you guys have any other questions, pop it in there. I'm going to go ahead and watch a brief video on, I know this isn't part of what we want to do normally. Hopefully we'll get more questions. But I'm going to share my screen and we'll show a little video on Gemini 3 and some of the stuff you can do there. And then it's image model Nano Banana 2, which is really interesting from a creativity standpoint.
Gemini has been multimodal since the beginning. Our Gemini 1 models could see, hear, understand vast amounts of information, and natively generate across modalities. Gemini 2 took the next step with advanced reasoning, enabling AI agents to think, code, and take action. We're taking all of this to the next level with Gemini 3. Gemini 3 is the strongest model in the world for multimodality and reasoning. It's our most intelligent model that helps you bring any idea to life. Starting today, we're rolling out Gemini 3 in our products so you can experience it for yourself. In Google Search, Gemini 3 enables new kinds of generative user interfaces. It codes interactive simulations like this one, custom built for your search. In the Gemini app, you can use the vast range of Gemini 3 capabilities for all kinds of tasks. You could supercharge how you learn, create, plan, take action, analyze complex videos, and more. You could start building with Gemini 3 Pro, available in the API today.
Okay, so the rest of this is going to talk about coding, so we'll pause it for a second. But the two things I wanted to touch on here that are really interesting. One is the way search is going to evolve. And you've heard me talk about this on podcasts, and we've been talking about this for a number of years. But this is where it really begins, is with Gemini 3. You saw in that video that they were talking about custom search experiences and charts and maps and graphs and images and all kinds of stuff. You're going to get to the point, and I said the end of 2025, Google seems to be pushing this back little by little. But the competition, I think, is going to force them to do it in 2026. To where every page that you see as a result of search is going to be in AI mode. And if you haven't demoed AI mode, just go to google.com, search for something, and then in the top there's a row of filters for search. Your default to all, but there's images, there's videos, there's news. On the left-hand side, there's something called AI mode. And if you click it, you'll see what the future of search is going to start to look like. Every search query that you do on your behalf is going to be different for you than it is for Mike or for Charles or for Scott or for anything else. It's going to be completely different. And so in that era, again, this is all changing. And I know this is a lot to throw at you all at once, but you're going to have to start to think about, how do I get my marketing team on board with making sure that I'm paying attention to what does it say about my campground? First off, like when I put my campground in search results, which you should all be doing, right? How am I presented? What is it taking and extracting from my brand and actually rewriting and giving to the consumer? Is that what I want it to say? I have very little control over it, but is the information out there accurate? Is it pulling from sources that are current or old? And that's an issue in the campground industry. As we know, there are so many websites out there like Good Sam and RV Life and RV Parky and et cetera, that all have listings that have information about your property. But if you're not paying attention and updating all of those at the same time, they could very easily have old information that could make their way into AI and present the wrong piece of data to your customer. That could be good, it could be bad. Most of the time it's going to be bad if it's wrong information. So that's the first step of that. And then figuring out, how do I present enough information to my customer to get myself found? Because the era of those 10 blue links is almost over. You're already seeing the AI overviews on top of Google search, but in 2026, when they go full AI mode, it's going to be completely gone. And so at that point, you're beholden to whatever Google Gemini spits back out. If that's one campground for your area, that's in many cases the only thing the customer is going to know. If that's 3 and you're not a part of those 3, that's the only thing the customer is going to know. It's the same thing as the Google Map carousel, where you see the 3 businesses listed under Google Maps. Sometimes when you do a local search, the percentage of people that click more places to list all the Google Maps, I don't know what it is, but it's probably under 10% would be my guess, depending on how savvy of a searcher you are. So it's really important to have that positioning and pay attention to that. Scott says, after the video, I do have a question. Recently spoke with someone, who uses ChatGPT to gather some information on local ordinances and other information about where they were considering an expansion of their park. They took the response and put it into a document and showed it to someone at a local business who told them that the zoning information they included wasn't even a real thing, like anywhere. How can someone who's looking into this put in safeguards to ensure this type of thing doesn't get through? One is, you always check everything, right? No, it would be the same thing as if you hired somebody to do a feasibility report for you. You trust the data, you trust the person, but you also want to be cognizant of, maybe I want to double check, not everything, but some of the highlights. So this is a good example. Let me share. I'll show you how. We talked about in the beginning about some of the models. and how you can switch between this stuff. Give me 1 second. I just have too many tabs open here. All right, so we'll do this. We'll do a new chat. I'll collapse this. All right, so up at the top of your ChatGPT here, you can see that there's a drop down here that says ChatGPT 5.1. Depending on whether you're on a free mode of ChatGPT or you're on a paid plan, you'll be able to change this. I strongly recommend, if you're using this for anything for business, that you pay the $20 a month and access ChatGPT Pro. It's not a lot if you know how to use this thing. When you think of it like you have 1,000 assistants in your pocket that know legal and accounting and math and marketing and science and data analysis and everything else. But one of the biggest problems with ChatGPT and some of these other models is they've introduced this auto picker, which is what you get by default in the free version. And the auto picker basically says, I'm going to decide whether this is an easy query or a hard query or something in between. And then I'm going to decide, do I need to route this, send this to a smart model or a less smart model or a really smart model? And so you can see this is broken down here for you underneath. Like you could choose instant, and that gives you answers right away. That's a less smart model. Thinking thinks longer for better answers, and Pro, which if you pay enough for it, you have this research grade intelligence. The same thing is in Gemini. If you're over here in Gemini. Okay, maybe it's not there in Gemini. It used to be there in Gemini. Oh, down here. Okay. So fast and thinking with 3 Pro. So you can choose some of these, and many of the consumers don't know these exist. But over here, if you go to ChatGPT and focus on the one we know, if you use the instant answer, I think the last number I saw was hallucinations or things that it makes up are somewhere around 15%. They happen 15% of the time. If you use the thinking model, I think it goes down to 1%. So that's the answer to many of your questions right away. It's almost like hiring a feasibility expert off of Fiverr or hiring like a Scott Barr, right? Or a Greg Emmert or something like that, or a Sage Outdoor Hospitality. Or it's the ability for them to think through that stuff, and you'll get better answers. But you have to be willing to pay for that stuff. Not a lot, $20 a month versus whatever you'd pay for some of this talent. Not that it can replace a Scott or a Greg Emmert, but it can get you much closer to what they do, and then they put the finishing touches and polish on top of that stuff. So I hope that answered your question, Scott. But just figuring out some of that stuff, and then you can also take it and you can run it through another model, right? So if you like, and this is maybe we're getting into some advanced stuff here. We'll go back to ChatGPT, and I'll say like, give me the zoning regulations that pertain to campgrounds in Savannah, Georgia. Just making something up. And so I've got it on thinking here. You know, for me, I have the ability to control how long it thinks. I don't know if this is this is in the $20 a month plan too. But depending on the question you ask, you can choose that too if you don't have the auto router in. And you'll be able to see its thinking. You can click on it and see a little bit about what it's thinking, although it's not as comprehensive. Because ChatGPT doesn't show you a lot of that stuff. And so we just sit here and wait. You can see like all these websites that it's browsing right here, .gov, .gov, .gov. Focus on zoning districts in Savannah that allow campgrounds or recreational vehicle RV parks. I'll check this article for details and see if state health rules apply. But the main focus is something. And so you just have to kind of sit here and wait for it. But after it thinks through all that stuff, it will give you an answer. And if you want to hurry it up, you can hit answer now. But remember that answer now is going to cause more hallucinations. So you've got to be patient and sit here and wait for it. And go multitask. Do something else. Switch to another tab. Do another task. And come back here in a few minutes, and this thing will be done and present you with all the information and sources and things like that. And you could write a better prompt than this, right? You could say like, I'm adding a playground at my property, and it's going to have swings and a slide, and that's the only thing that's relevant. I own a campground in Savannah, Georgia, that's governed by this, and here's obviously we know the city government or whatever, but if there's a county government, it's going to be able to know the state government. The more information that you give it and feed into it, the better answers it can get for you. And that's really one of the primary ways you avoid hallucinations. I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm trying to just keep talking about random things and see if we can get it to complete. But you can see how much it's going through some of this stuff. So we'll just click answer now for the sake of what it has, just so we can do the demo, which probably killed a lot of the good stuff that we were getting. But so then you can see it'll answer it quickly. Again, the thinking answer would have been much better. But for purposes of the demo, you can say, copy all this stuff right here at the bottom. And then you could go to a different model like Gemini and say, I am looking at zoning laws for a campground in Savannah. And ChatGPT gave me this answer. Is it accurate? And then just paste in what ChatGPT put and then let it go through the thinking model. And so we won't wait for that to finish, but that's an example of using one AI to check another AI. Scott, I know you like to use Perplexity a lot, so the same thing. That helps you. Like, again, you should still human check this for the really important stuff if you're submitting it to a bank or to a court or something like that, right? But this helps you kind of avoid and see some things. Or you can even go down here and you can say at the bottom of the AI, what are the important things from this that I need to verify, double check, and verify as a, I can't spell today, can I? As a human before I submit this to bank, etc. And then we'll just do answer now. We won't let it think, but just for speed. So this is the right mindset, confirm the jurisdiction, verify the exact zoning district, confirm the 5-acre minimum. And so everything you think you have questions about, Scott, you can ask AI. And you can say, here's a checklist for your packet. Would you like me to make you a fillable zoning verification PDF you can send, et cetera, et cetera. So just thinking about, like, go iterate back and forth with the AI. If you have questions and you're not sure about something, like, go back and forth with it and see what it has. I forgot to switch tabs. But this is what I said on ChatGPT. What are the most important things I need to double check? And it said confirm jurisdiction, verify the zoning district, etc. Check the temporary lodging rule, confirm strategic. So it gives you all that stuff, right? And then Gemini said the zoning information is highly accurate and references the correct. However, there's one potential confusion regarding the C district you should be aware of. So they all have their own training data. They all have their different search limits. It's just like hiring two different professionals. Like the feasibility report from Greg Emmert is going to be great. A feasibility report from Sage is going to be great. But Greg's going to have something that Sage didn't, and Sage is probably going to have something that Greg didn't. And so if you just put these two thinking minds together, it's almost like hiring two people as two experts to help you with your problem. What updates or improvements are planned for future versions of Gemini? I don't know the answer to this question. We can guess. Like, the big thing I think in 2026 is multimodality. And what I mean by that is the ability for the AI to understand way more than just text that you're putting into it. So you're seeing it start to understand images. We'll watch a video of images in real quick for Nano Banana, which is part of Gemini 3's rollout. But it also understands video. So you can actually take a YouTube clip. So let's find something, actually. We'll take this YouTube clip that we just watched. And let me share my screen. But you can do this with like a couple hour-long video if you want. And you can create a new conversation. Say, watch this video, and there's way better prompts than this. The 3 takeaways that I should research and learn more about from the video. Timestamps, and describe the frame that you are seeing for each, just to give it some proof that we'll find out if it's actually watching the video. And so it will go and it will literally just watch the video. It connects to YouTube, you can see, and Google does this really nicely. It connects to YouTube and Maps because, again, it's all Google. But there are other models that do this, like the Chinese AI that I use, Manus, has been able to do this for quite some time, but probably not as good as Gemini 3 now. So we'll unpack all that stuff. We'll come back to that in a second. But so multimodality and learning more about, how can I take a video clip and how can I, let's say, Mike, you have a really nice long video filmed about your property, Verde Ranch RV Resort, and you want to cut it down into 10 different clips that you could use on social media. You can just now take that whole video and you can upload it to Gemini and you can say, I want to create 10 social media clips. Watch this video and tell me what the 10 clips should be, the starting and the ending point, and what text I should write in the social media post, and what hashtags should I use and what tone of voice and everything else. And then you just take those and it can't actually edit the video, although that's coming really fast. But take those and send them to an editor and say, here's the clips I want from this second to this second. And this is what I want it to read on social media. So all those things they sound hard to learn, but if you learn how to iterate back and forth with AI, then you know how to do almost any unlock. You just have to recognize that it has the capability to do something. Let's watch this real quick. This is Nano Banana Pro.
This is your new creative partner, Nano Banana Pro, from Google, built on Gemini 3. Gemini 3 understands your world. So with Nano Banana Pro, you can reflect it, bend it, reimagine it. Take the complex and make it clear with detailed infographics, intricate diagrams, and text in any style you choose. You can give your imagination shape and form, craft a brand, visualize it, and then see it everywhere. And when you want to tell a story, Google's Nano Banana Pro gives you control across color, focus, and lighting. In vivid 4K, in every aspect ratio, and with every image securely watermarked. Nano Banana Pro, for your next idea that starts anywhere and ends wherever you take it.
So we looked at Gemini earlier, but you can see here, and this did the video thing, so we'll look at this real quick in a second, but the advanced reasoning. Down here, you can see under tools, you can create images with Nano Banana. They tried to call this some confusing Gemini 2.5 flash image, but the whole internet decided to call it Nano Banana because that's what the test model was created, and they just went with it. So you can create images in here. You can create videos with VO 3.1. Mike and some of the other people on here have seen the commercial I created using VO 3.1, and it's probably even better now. You can do deep research and deep dives into topics that'll take like 15, 20 minutes to complete, and we'll go search hundreds of different websites. There's Canvas, where it can draw and code apps. And then there's things like Deep Think and guided learning that do other things too. So the more things you can do from here, the better. You can add from Google Drive, you can upload files, and soon you'll be able to connect Gmail and all those other places to help you understand stuff. So, and we'll show a good example of that in a second called Pomeli. So here's the 3 key takeaways from the video. The advanced reasoning of Gemini 3, timestamp 27 seconds. Why research it? Frame description. The screen displays a cinematic introduction of the Gemini 3.3 title, likely accompanied by abstract high-tech visualizations. So let's look at this and see. There, that was 27 seconds. Gemini 3. So you can see like it actually watches the video. This 48 seconds is Gen UI interfaces. The frame is we see a Google search interface where the results are not just text, but dynamic. There you go. So that's the proof that it's actually watching the video and not just reading the text. It knows all that stuff. Sorry, I didn't actually switch between the tabs, but that's the 48 seconds, 47 seconds. So just understanding all that stuff and realizing that if you just use your creativity, and if you don't know what to type in the box because it's hard, it's scary, it's what do I ask? You just go down here and say, what do I ask? How do I solve that problem? And AI will answer that question for you too. What else do we got in chat? I tend to find with the deep research, it will be honest on what it's able to find, as in it will spit out if it does not know or can't give a confident answer. At least that's been my experience with a business description regarding local laws and ordinances. Yeah, if you have the deep research is more of an advanced model. So the more that you choose these things that think long, long times, the more it will come back and say, Often I don't know, but you still need to double check some of this stuff. In my chat GPT, and you can do this in yours too, under your personal settings here. Sorry, it's under personalization. I just missed it. They moved it. Under personalization, you can put your base style and tone. So do I want it to be professional, friendly, candid, quirky, efficient, nerdy, cynical? And then concise. Do I want it to be less or more concise? Do I want to have headers and lists, warm, enthusiastic, formal? And then here's mine. Never ever lie, make up things, stretch the truth, be frank, honest, and straightforward. Otherwise do as instructed, but overall else, never fudge the truth. Use the Socratic method always. So I have it ask me like follow-up questions and say what are some things that I should consider that I shouldn't be considering. And inside that same paragraph is instructions for it to say, if I ask you something about an opinion that has an opposing viewpoint, present me with the opposing viewpoint. So I'm always considering what someone else thinks to make sure that I come to whatever conclusion is best for me. So all this stuff it's very overwhelming. There's so much to do. But the more you just play with it and talk to it and learn it, the better you will get with it. And the more comfortable you'll get with getting the results that you want. I think we had some questions in Q&A here too. Where do you see the biggest misconceptions about AI in the outdoor hospitality industry? I don't even think it's the outdoor hospitality industry. I think it's everybody. The biggest misconception about AI is that it's just a chatbot. This thing is going to solve medicine and protein folding and nuclear fusion. And like right now, they're just building the data centers. Those are going to start to come online in early 2026. The more compute they have, the more chips they have, the more problems this will be able to solve. You will start to see it cure disease in the next several years. This is going to be very good for society. And also there are going to be some things that, like the hacking we talked about earlier, that we have to pay attention to. So I think the misconceptions more about it's so much to learn and it's moving so fast that people don't have a chance to catch up. So they form opinions based on their own limited knowledge, which aren't necessarily wrong. They're just incomplete. How are guests responding to AI-driven tools for inquiries and bookings at campgrounds? Are they embracing the technology, or do you still see a preference for human interaction? I think it's both. There will always be a preference for human interaction, unless you're one of the people who just doesn't want to talk to a human. But there will always be a preference for that, especially in outdoor hospitality. And Mike and I have had these conversations, and so Scott and I and a few other people on this call. But there will always be that human being who will, unless you're really embracing and becoming a tech robot campground, who adds that personal experience. But what AI will unlock for you, whether it's through chats or calls or automations or just you using it as an owner on your own to do some of the analysis we've covered in the call today, what that is going to unlock is the ability for you or your team to spend more time with your guests. That will end up in better guest service, right? Walking them to their site, showing them around the cabin, giving them all the features, telling them how the air conditioning operates, where the light switches are, et cetera, et cetera. It's just better customer service. And so the more tedious tasks you can take away, the more really nice guest services tasks it unlocks for your team. Which has more scalability building workflow automation or creating agents? For example, on content creation, blogs, social posts, it's the same thing. So workflow automation is or can be agents. But agents, the difference between, we talked about Zapier, and if this, then that. If I get a new email, read my email and write a draft response and put that draft in my inbox. That's what you would traditionally call a workflow automation. But eventually there will just be an agent that is connected to your Gmail that will already know that that's what needs to be done. Every email needs to have a draft reply, and it will just put it there without you building the workflow automation. And that's where the big leap is going to come in 2026 and beyond, is you won't have to know how to build the workflow automation as an owner. You will just have to know how to ask for what you want. So that's going to be a really nice unlock. All right, the last thing I want to show you guys before we wrap up in 6 minutes here, we're going to have a hard stop, is this tool called Pomeli from Google, DeepMind. And Mike, I used your campground as an example here, so hopefully you don't mind. But this is a really interesting tool that they have out in beta now, and it's on labs.google.com. It's called Google Pomeli, Pomeli, and you can just go put in your website, and it will take about 10 minutes, and it will come back and give you this business DNA. Verde Ranch RV Resort, here's your logo, here's the fonts you used, here's the colors, here's your tagline, brand values, brand aesthetic, rustic, modern, nature-inspired, earthy and warm, tone of voice, your overview, and it will pull in a bunch of images from your website. Now, I don't know how long this is going to take. Maybe it won't be done, but you can say it looks good, and it will generate then social media posts based on that. So start from our suggestions or prompt to create a new campaign. So we'll do trade snow for Savannah sun. And you can see like it's got these images created already, which some of which work, some of which don't. But you can see it'll generate you some of these social media campaigns already that you can then take and tweak. You can get 80, 90% of the way there. Wild West Christmas glamping, the perfect holiday hideout. Experience the luxury of glamping with the fun of, I can't read that, it's too small. Historic Wild West theme. And then Generation Veil trial again. But so this is where this is going, right? You're going to get to the point where you can take this data from your business and you can literally create social media campaigns, logos, graphics, new colors, images, videos. It's all just going to be at the tip of your fingers. And this is just a beta, but this is to the point where, yes, it's going to replace some of the people that you hire, but it's going to give you as a business owner the ability to maybe hire one person who can do all these things if they know how to prompt ChatGPT correctly, to talk to it correctly. So learning that is way more important than it ever has been in the past. Just learning how to talk to it. Was that relatively on brand, Mike, or what do you think?
I don't know. I have to look at it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share it with you later, but it's gonna get even better. Like I was pretty impressed that it pulled all the logos and all that stuff, and I think the first part was on brand. The second part still has to do some work as far as the branding and creativity. But all right, I think that's all I've got for today. We got 3 minutes to wrap up, but hopefully this format was pretty good. Hopefully we did get a lot of questions. Thank goodness for the chat there that Mike showed me. But we're happy to put people on camera, talk interactively, have a group discussion here. We really want this to be collaborative. I talked a lot today, but I'd love for like Mike to be able to talk to Charlie and Charlie be able to talk to Scott, and we can bring all you guys on stage and have you go back and forth with each other. So this isn't just a one-sided conversation, but we'll work on this. We'll improve the format. We'll get more people in here, but otherwise, I hope that was a good first step at this stuff for you. We'll have another one next week, and then we'll take a couple weeks off for the holidays, I think, and resume in 2026. But is there anything else? Any last questions anybody has for the last 2 minutes here? If not, we'll review we have a couple polls that I put up here. Be honest, how comfortable are you with the idea of AI talking directly to your guests via chat or email? 1 is not ready at all. 2 is dipping a toe in, maybe just for simple things. 8 says cautiously optimistic. I'd try it for taking bookings, but I want to check its work. And 1 says full steam ahead. That wasn't me, so somebody else is full steam ahead. And then the other one was if you could wave a magic wand and have AI handle one daily chore for you perfectly, which would you choose? 5 said the receptionist answering the same phone questions over and over. Nobody said peacemaker, writing polite responses to difficult or negative guests. 4 said the marketer, creating all your Facebook posts and emails for the month. And 1 said the strategist, deciding exactly when to raise or lower prices to fill sites. So it's going to be an interesting world. We're going to cover some of this stuff week to week to week. Hopefully you guys find it interesting, but I really would love to collaborate with all of you and have you guys help each other. So hopefully we can do more of that going forward. But thank you all for joining it. I appreciate you, and have a great Thanksgiving for those of you in the United States. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.